everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. I am your co-host, Brian Bosarge, along with my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. We are the managing partners of DraftCountdown.com. And Shane, we are 231 days, 22 hours, 59 minutes, and 29 seconds away from the 2022 NFL Draft.
I can't wait. It was a fun week of college football. Definitely a lot of shakeups for me and learning a lot more. So I'm excited to talk about it with you. We got a lot to dig into this week.
We sure do, and we'll start out right now by asking anybody if you're in the live chat here on YouTube or if you're following us on Twitter, just drop a question in to @Draft Countdown, and we'll answer it at the end of the show. Shane, there was some major injuries in week one from college football, some a lot worse than others. We'll talk about one to the top draft pick that was dinged up, and that's Oregon edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau, day-to-day per head coach Mario Cristobal, with an ankle injury. Have to think if it's a high ankle sprain, it's a lot worse than day-to-day, but I guess we'll see.
I'm really interested to see, because if it is worse than day-to-day, do you play? Do you Nick Bosa it? Like, I don't think he has to play to be a top 5 pick, be a top 3 pick. Like that game week one was he was excellent, and he was a monster already. So like, I don't know. I could see a situation where it lingers and then he's just out. There's no reason to play.
You could definitely, especially if they just get rolled this week by Ohio State, which we're going to talk about the game in length in a little bit. But if they would essentially be out, right? I mean, of any playoff contention being in the Pac-12. I mean, they almost have to run the table in that conference to make the 14 playoffs. So if Oregon gets rolled, maybe Kayvon Thibodeau is like, maybe my foot still hurts a little bit. Maybe I need to, just sit this baby on out the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can even play it by ear, right? And if you're the coach, like, what are you going to say? No, then he can just leave. But sit out, and if you make the playoff, if you make the Rose Bowl, and he wants to play, then he can.
And a game you watched on Thursday night he was dominant for the first 3 quarters. Minnesota running back Mohamed Ibrahim, he's out for the year now.
I feel terrible because if we don't get the information like the NFL of exactly what it is, but it really seems like it was an Achilles tendon injury. Watching it, talking to some people, some doctors that were watching it. And I mean, he was dominating. He dominated last year. He's dominating this year. I think he was in line to be a top 100 pick. And now at 24 years old, I mean, I think his career's over. Like, maybe he gets drafted late if the rehab's good, but probably undrafted and probably struggling to make a team because of this injury. And like, it sucks. And it's, I'll never fault a player for going back to school. When they want to, like, it's definitely their lives. And now with the NIL, I think it'll be more common, but he could have come out last year and, he'd be playing on Sundays right now.
I mean, and at best you're looking at a 9 to 10 month, if not 12-month rehab from an Achilles. So, I mean, at best he's looking at starting on a PUP list or, going on NFI or maybe even just straight up being on injured reserve to start his NFL career.
Right. And so, like, is a team going to draft you? You're not the fastest. He's not the most athletic running back, even though he's very good at what he does, his vision and his, how he cuts. I don't think in this deep of a class in general that NFL teams are going to spend a 4th round pick on that kind of player. Maybe they do. I hope for his sake, but yeah, it was. I could feel, I could just, my heart just broke, like, seeing it, and I'm an Ohio State alum. Like, he was thrashing the Buckeyes, but I want to see him do well because I really felt like he could be a good NFL player.
And another injury that popped up from a player who was having by all intents and purposes, a good day against Western Michigan is Michigan wide receiver, kickoff return, punt returner, Ronnie Bell. He's going to be out for the season, I do believe.
Yeah, he will, and I think he was a player who was underrated in this draft. Had a good game for Michigan this week, and he was the leading receiver over over Nico Collins, over some guys that are in the NFL now. So I was. It sucks, because I think he'll still make the NFL. Like, I don't think it's like Ibrahim, but I think he had an outside shot maybe at being, an late day 2, early day 3 pick. But that might be out the window now.
Yeah, I agree. There was a lot of standout players in week 1. We're going to each highlight 2. I'll go first, and my first guy that I'm going to bring up is a guy I did not have rated coming into last week. He's now on borderline top 10 of my edge rushers in what I think is going to be a pretty deep edge class. Not going to say he ends up in the top 10 of that, which would probably put him in the top 100. But it's Georgia transfer, Florida State edge rusher Jermaine Johnson II. Guy just had a dominant day, teeing off on Notre Dame's what was a veteran Notre Dame offensive line for the most part, and he had his way up front. Had a couple of sacks, or a sack and a half, and a couple of tackles for losses. Yeah, he just interrupted Notre Dame's offense for the bulk of the night.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued to follow him for the rest of the year too. Like, if he can keep that going, you're right. I think that that top 10, edge rusher potential, top 100 potentials there. So he's definitely someone I have to dig into more. But it's a good call.
Yeah. He was a guy that had 5 sacks last year at Georgia. And if you watch the Georgia Clemson game, which we're going to talk about some of those guys a little bit later, but he may have not even saw the field Saturday night for Georgia. Is the crazy thing about that. But he's a star at Florida State. I think that's probably the best move for him because he'll have a lot of high-profile games this season to continue to raise his stock. Who is one of your guys this week, Shane?
I got to go flashy and go with the quarterback. So Monday night, I watched Mississippi against Louisville and released that article today. And Matt Corral, the quarterback of Mississippi, I think is a potential first-round pick. I was kind of waiting for a quarterback to excel, especially after Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler struggled a little bit. As you wrote and I wrote as well, I don't think it was as bad as the stat line looked for either of those guys. But even so, there's kind of a little bit of an opening perhaps here. And I think Matt Corral is sliding into that opening. He has it's an RPO offense. So something the NFL is trending towards, a really lightning quick release. And I love, how his ball placement in the short to intermediate range was good. And what I saw in this game, I know it's Louisville, but that was better than last year, was just his ability to actually go through progressions, recognize what's not there, recognize what the defense is doing, and make that play. In Alabama, when he played Alabama last year, he had a great game, but he was chucking up some passes that, he got a little bit lucky with, and that did not happen in this game, even the downfield ones. So add in, he has a little bit of run ability. He's athletic enough. I think him and probably Malik Willis from Liberty are the two guys this week that quarterback-wise that I said, something's there that if they can build on this, the first round's, I think, a possibility.
It seems Matt Corral learned a lesson that Spencer Rattler has not, and I kind of wrote this in my piece about Oklahoma, is you can't go broke if you take a profit. There's no sense in trying to force things. Spencer Rattler ain't really learned that lesson yet. Probably needs to kind of get that figured out here pretty soon. But Matt Corral seems to have corralled it, if you will, his instincts to just throw up the balls.
Yeah, and so I think that's be interesting going into SEC play, how he does, and if he can not have a 5 interception game might be helpful this season. But I think if I had to stake my claim, if you told me one of Rattler and Howell goes in the top 5 of the NFL draft, I would make that bet on Matt Corral right now.
I can't wait to get my first look at him. It won't be this week, but maybe in the next couple of weeks. I'll get my chance to get my eyes on Matt Corral officially for the first time. Other guy that stood out to me was from the Maryland West Virginia game, and I was already pretty high on him, and then I saw in this game what makes him such a special player, and that's Maryland wide receiver Dante Demas. He's got it all, man. I mean, he's big, he's fast. I think he's going to have the lateral. He's going to test well laterally with his athleticism. He catches everything. I really like the speed and the package of. I want to see him run more of a traditional route tree, perhaps, but I think as far as the tools and the talent, Dante Demas is a top 10 receiver in this class.
I think he's going to be – I think it's a good call. I think he's going to be one of those receivers that's kind of throughout the process by the people, on the internet and the draft nicks just disrespected a bit. I think there's a couple of those receivers like no one's – he's not flashy. He's not, exciting. He's not young. But, like you saw, I think with Josh Palmer last year, just, it's not a good team. Maybe the production's not going to be there for Maryland in Big Ten play. But I'm with you, and I probably need to watch a little more him. And he feels like kind of guy I'm going to be moving up my rankings as well.
I'll hit on another in our closing thoughts here on another senior receiver that I think is going to have a big year, and I think you like him too. We'll talk about him later, but I think Demas is a guy who's going to perhaps come down here to my hometown of Mobile, maybe at the end of the year at the Senior Bowl, and or maybe out the Shrine in Vegas now, one of those. But he's going to have a chance to show out at one of those All-Star games and definitely help move his stock in the northward trajectory. Who's your other standout from week one?
Not to look, I'm gonna go offensive line because we never quite have the offensive linemen that we
they don't get the love that they deserve, right?
Yeah, right. It's difficult, but Ikem Ekwonu from NC State, he's playing left tackle there, junior. We have him rated as a guard, which I think is his best spot. And NC State this week ran a ton and ran successfully. Zonovan Knight, Ricky Person, watched that game, and they were dynamic. And NC State's offensive line's not good. The other four guys, not so great. Like, Zonovan Knight had to make some guys miss in the backfield, but Ekwonu was just smashing guys. The one run up the sideline, he's running with Zonovan Knight and taking guys out. Like, I mean, he has that nasty streak that I love in an offensive lineman, to see that kind of, passion, even in pass blocking. Him and Evan Neal were the two guys this week that were just like you're pancaking guys, pass blocking. That's usually a good sign. So he's moved into my top 5 guards. And if he keeps that up, I think it could go even higher for sure.
Yeah, I haven't officially put my eyes on him yet. So that's another one I'm looking forward to in the next couple of weeks to getting to watch. But yeah, anytime, it's always fun watching them guys just destroy people. And Evan Neal, you brought up him. I mean, he's almost a top 5 lock at this point. With every team in the NFL, no team can say, hey, we don't need more offensive linemen. No team's going to say that. And so Evan Neal will have suitors in that top 5, top 10 area for sure. So last week, Shane, we debated the quarterbacks and we went over the top 10. This week, I want to flip it over to the defense just so we sit and run positions straight on through offense. And then, by week 10 or whatever, we finally get around to some defenders. So I figured we'd start with some defense this week, and we'll go over our top 5 edge rusher class. And I think number 1 for both of us is going to be the same, right? Yeah. It's Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge rush from Oregon, who hopefully we'll get to see play again at the collegiate level. I'm sure you saw the clip on Twitter of him just completely wrecking shop on, I think it was Dante Bull, the Fresno State left tackle.
Yep.
That he just completely blows by him, strips the ball, leads to an Oregon touchdown against Fresno State. Then he gets hurt, and Fresno State all of a sudden has a lead late in that football game because his presence was no longer there. But yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau he's a monster.
He is really, really good. He was a high-end 5-star recruit. Like in high school, he was doing those same things. He was also playing offense and dominating there. Like he's just that kind of athlete. And so I think everyone knew when he came into the college football that that's what would happen. Like he was going to be this good coming out of high school. And so it's rare sometimes that we get those players that kind of go, I feel like, wall to wall as the best at their position in college. And I think he pretty much rose to that like fairly quickly to be one of the best. I kind of compare him to Myles Garrett. I think he's a similar prospect to that, right? That lightning quick first step that is just so hard for a big offensive lineman to block. Felix Sharp of the campus2canton.com compared him. We were talking, he compared him to Javon Curse. And I was like, oh, well, that's actually pretty good. Like Javon Curse had his struggles in the NFL, but like that kind of athletic freak, I think Thibodeaux fits into that pretty well.
Yeah, it seems like when you're the number one overall recruit coming out of high school and you're a defensive end or edge rusher, you tend to have good early success. I mean, going back, you mentioned Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, all number one recruits in high school, all dominated from the moment they stepped on campus, all have had some better than others. I would like to have seen Clowney actually stay healthy for more than 6 games in a season, but that hasn't really happened. But Myles Garrett has, and you'd like to think that kind of success is going to befall Kayvon Thibodeau as he goes. Number 2 on my board is Drake Jackson from Southern Cal. Number 2 on your board is Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. We'll talk about Hutchinson first because he is
That's not a good sign.
Number 5. It's number 5.
Okay.
Right. He is there. But
I thought you were clicking down the list. Not the 10s, but the 20s.
Sorry. But Hutchinson stands out because he's going to win the combine, isn't he?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's his size. I think we have him listed 278, 6'6", and he moves like one of those 220, 225 type of defensive linemen and pass rushers, edge rushers. That's what's really exciting to me is you have that kind of athletic ability. He got hurt last season. He was out for the year.
Which is why he's a little further down on my list than some of the others because I haven't really seen him play a whole lot. So it's kind of like I'm going off the athletic ability and what little bit I have seen.
Yeah. And I mean, watching the Michigan game last week, like he was dominant. He stepped back in. He looked healthy. He looked good. So I really, I had Drake Jackson too, and I kind of bumped. Both had a good week, but I bumped Hutchinson up just because I think, like you said, the combine. I mean, the athleticism. Hutchinson's going to get there. He probably could have come out last year had he not gotten hurt and been.
We'll talk about. We're going to talk about what could be a good matchup for Hutchinson a little bit later. When we talk about our week 2 watch list. But Drake Jackson's another one. I don't know if he's going to test as well as Hutchinson. He's not as big as Hutchinson, but he's got a good first step. He's quick. He's making plays in the backfield for Southern Cal. And right now I'm a little bit higher on him based on production and such of that nature going back to last year. And I think he's solidly, I think, right now in the first round, but he could be one of those guys that, maybe as the season progresses, you start seeing some of these other guys pass him and he ends up being that steal in the second round is Drake Jackson.
Yeah, he could, he had a really good freshman season, looked like that guy. And then I think last year as a sophomore took a step back, shortened season. I think that's still something that we're assessing, right? Is like how much of an impact does that have? Last season when things were not kind of normal for these college football players, if someone like Jackson had a tough year and then he came in, week 1 for Southern Cal and had a really good game and looked back to his old self. So yeah, I'm definitely high on him too. I mean, I think he has the production. I think he has that type of kind of movement skill with different pass rush moves. He's someone I've seen, use the spin move and swim and get low on some of these higher cut offensive linemen. So like I like that because it definitely shows someone that's trying something, that's watching tape, so I think that maybe that hard work's there for him as well, which is always a plus.
Number 3 on my board, and he wasn't ranked at all coming into last week, and I was this impressed with this guy, and I'm thinking he moved up a good amount on your board as well, because I see you now have him at number 7. It's Georgia edge rusher Adam Anderson, 6'5", 230, and if you watch the Clemson game, you know who Adam Anderson is now.
It was an impressive performance, and he's had a fairly consistent career, but Georgia's tough to crack that lineup and get consistent playing time. So he definitely moved up my board after this week. Although he was in that backfield and was he was going up against Will Putnam, who I think's a draftable prospect for Clemson, as bad as that offensive line was. So it's not like he was, playing some schmuck. So I was definitely impressed, not just with the pass rushing ability, but he can drop back in coverage. He can play a little bit more traditional linebacker too. I think, even in a 3-4, he could be really interesting. I think he's going to find a nice role for a team.
What's the word? Scheme diverse, I think is going to fit Adam Anderson really well. Yeah, I mean, he may drop off some this season. The more I'm guessing between both of us, we'll watch Georgia just a few more times this season, and I know for sure I'll be watching them in week 3. Maybe I might not be writing it up, but I'll definitely be watching them and hoping and praying that he doesn't kill whatever quarterback is back there for South Carolina. But speaking of South Carolina, that's going to bring us, we'll transition right there to my number 4 rated edge rusher. And I believe he is not far.
Yeah, number 6
for me. 6 for you is Kingsley JJ Enigbare. I'm guessing JJ I'm assuming it's a nickname. I don't know where it came from. But I've actually tried to find that out. I cannot find out why he's called JJ. But Kingsley Enigbare, 6'3", 260-pound edge rusher, has been one of the best pass rushers in the SEC last year for sure. Produced as a sophomore as well. Transition this year, changed his number, Shane, from 52 to 1, because that just looks sleeker on a pass rusher, if we're going to be honest. But he took it because he said of what J.C. Horn meant to him as a teammate and as a player at South Carolina. So he took J.C. Horn's number to show the love there. But Enigbare, man, he's the best pass rusher South Carolina's had since Jadeveon Clowney left, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big dude too. Like he's definitely, he packs on that weight well and holds it well. And long arms, like has a lot of those, I think, those natural talents that you want in a pass rusher. I'm definitely excited to watch him more, because I thought as last season kind of went on, he improved and showed a little bit more discipline in what he was doing, and not just like trying to out athletic everyone. So I think that's exciting, and obviously was pretty productive with 6'6", so should be good.
How much stock do you put in PFF for college grades?
For the draft, not much. I honestly not like, I like PFF and I love what they do. It's good, I think, to have an idea, but I don't think their grades translate to what NFL teams will do, if that makes sense.
I bring that up just while we were talking about South Carolina. I just wanted to, but I saw it tweeted out earlier that your boy that I wasn't even on the train for until after you said something, Zach Pickens graded out a 96.3 this past Saturday.
There you go. See,
now it was, like I said, I tweeted, do not overreact to Eastern Illinois. Do not overreact to Eastern Illinois. But,
yeah, right.
It is what it is. My number 5 edge rusher was Aiden Hutchinson. We talked about him. So let's talk about yours. The guy who I have.
But you skipped my number 4. So
I'm sorry. No,
my bad. You're just trying to take the Buckeyes away from me. I know what's going on.
My bad. You're number 4, Zach Harrison, Ohio State. Is he the next? He's number 6 on my board, by the way, so not far off here either. But Zach Harrison, talk to me about Ohio State. Is he the next Bosa, or is he not that highly regarded?
He's definitely not to that level. I don't think he's on Chase Young or Bosa's level, right, of multiple years of production. He just really hasn't had the opportunity to start because they've had really good pass rushers. Jonathan Cooper last year was ahead of him, and Chase Young the year before. So, but yeah, I mean, in that game against Minnesota, he had a dominant third down stop. He had a great rush and sack of Tanner Morgan in the game. Like, he is in line, I think he was a high 4-star recruit coming in. But he has that kind of combination of, good size, power. He's tall, he's big, really long arms. Like, I might be a little bit too high on him potentially. But I'm interested to see when he works out. He has that athleticism. And if that production stays this season, I think it's going to be tough to maybe keep him out of top 50-ish range.
Yeah, there's a lot to like there. Like you said, the production isn't there because he just hasn't played. He's been behind guys or whatever. But I think this year you'll see the production ramp up immensely. And your number 5 guy is a guy I had ranked down number 11, really, because I haven't only passively, really studied him. But Brenton Cox, Jr. from Florida. What's got you so high on him?
I love the production last year. I thought he was playing in a good defense, was pretty naturally gifted. And, the fact that he could, go up against some of those SEC schools and was like consistently in the backfield, even when he wasn't getting sacks or even getting much in terms of statistics, getting those tackles for loss sometimes. But then there were games where he was lighting it up. So, I think he's solid. I think he's an option that's not like, this guy, we're talking about Kingsley Enagbare and Zach Harrison. Like, this guy's an athletic freak. Like, I know like Brenton Cox is that. So that, that could knock him down a little bit. But I think he's one of those players that can get drafted second day and have a productive career and find a good path. So I didn't notice him. He played. I didn't notice him in the bits that I watched of the of the Florida game this past week. But I'm excited to kind of get to watch him, hopefully against some better competition games and perform.
All right, we did this last week with the quarterbacks, and I think we'll do it every week with these other positions. It might get a little harder as we go week by week as we get further in the season because we will have watched a lot more games of some of these players. But who outside of your top 10 right now, edge rushers currently, could end up being a first-round pick in April?
Ooh, first round.
First-round pick.
Oh, man. So, look, can we just go back to Georgia again? like, is that too easy? So I'm gonna pick Nolan Smith, the other pass rusher at Georgia on the opposite side of Adam Anderson. He was the Kayvon Thibodeau of his recruiting year, and hadn't he wasn't quite as high as Thibodeau was as a recruit, but 5-star guy that hadn't got playing time. Like, he hadn't been able to play, and this is his first year starting. I thought he had a good game. I mean, I guess everyone at Georgia had a good game on that defense. So, it's pretty bad, but he seemed to still hold a lot of that athletic ability. So I think he could be one of those. Well, maybe the production wasn't there because he only started a year, but he lights up the combine and the pro day and all of that. And someone takes a chance on him late in round 1.
Good call there. The easy answer for me would be the guy I talked about earlier, Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. So I won't go with that. I'll go with another guy I watched in that same game though. And let's keep the owner of Draft Countdown happy here and go with a Fighting Irish here. Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame. He'll have the Notre Dame pedigree. You know, their pass rushers they put in the league the last few years. You know, so you have that the name team NFL teams like the Notre Dame guys, and Foskey I think's got the goods. I mean, he's got some good bend coming around the edge there. Showed it against Florida State, had a sack there, and was in the backfield several times against their offense. So I'll say Isaiah Foskey, but another guy that I liked that I watched the other night, looking noticeably leaner than he was at Auburn, is a Big Cat Bryant from UCF. I think he's a guy who I don't think he'll be a first-round pick, but if you told me at the end of this process Big Cat Bryant's drafted in the top 100, I think I could see it, you know, the way he played against Boise the other night.
No, that's fair. He was a guy I was really high on 2 years ago, and then last year it kind of fell apart a little bit. So I'm excited to watch him. I think this defensive class as a whole is really good. It's a good edge class for sure, and it's pretty deep. Like I go down into my 20s and my 30s and whatnot, and I'm pretty happy. Like those guys I think can play on Sundays for sure.
I'm at this point now. I'm confident in about 27 guys at the edge position that we've watched so far that I feel good, that I think are draftable players at this point. I know the more I watch, the more I'm going to like. So eventually some of these guys aren't going to be draftable players anymore. But, it's a deep class for sure. I think edge is going to be the position group that probably has the most picks. If you told me right now which position group would have the most top 100 selections, I think, you could see the edge being that group right now.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, I think you could be right. I think edge. I think corner. But I think corner could, but it's not as deep. Yeah, I'm with you. Actually, I think edge, and maybe receiver are probably the two right now that have that shot. But and edge, I think is a tougher position than receiver or corner sometimes to get that volume too.
Yeah, because everybody needs them. And we've been going receiver heavy and corner heavy the last two drafts. So, maybe it's time to restock those defensive front fours there. Let's move on to week 2. We've got 12 games coming up this week. We'll talk in depth. We'll talk about a couple of the big games that we're watching. Each one we're watching piece. We'll start with me. You saw Ohio State last week. I'm going to see them this week. 31 players, Ohio State and Oregon. And we talked about Zach Harrison as a guy. Oregon's got some offensive linemen there that can, some draftable prospects there on the offensive line that I think, will be a challenge for some of these Ohio State defensive linemen like Haskell Garrett and Zach Harrison. So interested to see that. I really wish we could have saw, and maybe there's still a chance, that Kayvon Thibodeau is going to play. He's not going to play. But it would have been great to see him, go against Petit Frere or Munford's moved inside the guard now, but it would have been nice to see him go against those guys and just to kind of get that apples to apples, good on good comparison there for Thibodeau. But a lot of guys to look forward to in that game for sure. Since I'm not going to get to see Thibodeau this week, I guess the Oregon running backs are probably the guys to see how they play. CJ Verdell and Travis Dye, 2 running backs we have on our watch list. Anxious to see those guys. We had one running back from Ohio State on our list who now seems to be the third string running back on Ohio State now, Master Teague. So
he got the second drive. So
he's been supplanted by the true freshman there.
Travion Henderson is a monster, so it won't be long.
So yeah, Anthony Brown, quarterback from Oregon, transfer from Boston College. Is he a prospect to you? Like is he a draftable prospect, or is he going to be north of the border?
I was excited to watch him and watch him this past week, and then he wasn't good. Like it just I thought he could. There was a lot of hype that he could take them far. Maybe he can get back to there. So I think he could be, but he's got to really rebound from that first week, and I don't think it's going to happen.
That's a shame, for Oregon there. So what I'm basically hearing from you is that Ohio State minus 14. Not saying that's going to be the lock of the week for you, Shane, but you're definitely selling it on to me. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough after last week when CJ Stroud didn't look great, but I think Oregon, after watching last week, it's like it might be a little bit overrated, or maybe they were just looking ahead and got caught a little bit. But I'll be interested to see.
Fresno State's a good football team too. Let's not counter. They're going to be one of the better teams in the Mountain West this year.
Absolutely.
Your big game this week is the ABC Saturday night game. Probably one ABC wishes they could take back now after that debacle, not even losing, just losing bad to Montana at home. It's not a good look for Washington, but they're playing Michigan in the big ABC primetime game this week, and that one is yours this week, Shane.
I'm excited to watch it. I know the Montana upset doesn't make Washington look good, but I think they'll be fine. I think it'll be a good game. I think it could be close. I want to see for Michigan. I definitely want to see the defensive linemen, see Aiden Hutchinson. I like Christopher Hinton, their defensive lineman, their starter there, and they have a pretty deep, roster at D-line. And then Daxton Hill, the safety there, is one of my favorites. I mean, you wrote about the Notre Dame Florida State game, and Kyle Hamilton was out of this world as he is. But like Daxton Hill has a little bit of that in him, that athleticism that reminds me a little bit of like a Troy Polamalu type of, he'll run all over the field before the snap and do some different things. Really interesting. So I'm excited to see him. And then Washington, I think their secondary is probably the best piece. Like Kyler Gordon and Trent McDuffie, their two corners are very athletic, as Washington has done. Producing corners to the NFL, cornerbacks is kind of what they've done, and those guys have generally done decently in the NFL. I think these are the next two that have that day two upside to play. So, I definitely want to see them. Unfortunately, I was hoping Ronnie Bell would play because it'd be a good matchup. But obviously he's out for the season, like we said before. And I want to, maybe they can get, I don't know what the receiver situation is going to be. They were missing their top four in that game against Montana. So K-Dot and the tight end, they should have used a little bit more than they did, and they didn't. And then not a draftable player, but I want to see, after Dylan Morris stunk it up and lost that game, I want to see if maybe we can see the 5-star quarterback, Sam Heward, get his shot maybe this week. Would be pretty exciting. So.
Is he Brock's kid?
I believe so.
Or is he a relation to Brock at some point? You would have to think you would be at least in that family.
Yeah, right. Like
the Washington legacy.
His nephew. So
okay,
close.
Okay. Do you think we'll get how much one-on-one do you think we'll see from Hutchinson and Jackson Kirkland? Because that'd be a matchup I'd want to see.
That would be fun. They should match up against each other, unless Michigan makes a change there. So that would be awesome. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, because Kirkland is highly thought of as a top offensive tackle prospect in the draft circles there. Another guy from Washington we won't see, unfortunately, because he was injured. Is it in spring practice or fall practice? I'm not sure. But yeah. Zion Topola Fatui, tremendous edge rusher for Washington last year, has really started coming on, and but he's out with an injury. So we may not see him until he's in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see him this year, so we'll see if he declares. But he's probably too high on my list, but I really liked him.
He's really good. I mean, there was a lot to like there. So let's look ahead at our other week 2 matchups. We've got 12 games total between us, 5 your way, 7 my way. I probably got a bit too ambitious this week, if we're going to be honest. But Friday night, because there will be no Thursday night college football games this week. They're not that stupid. Trying to go up against that monster rating that's coming with the Cowboys and Tampa Bay. Friday night, though, we've got one game apiece, 6:30 p.m. ESPN2. I'm going to be watching Kansas try to have a 2-game winning streak, but they are on the road and a 25-point underdog to a Sun Belt team, Coastal Carolina. But Coastal Carolina is really good, and we talked last week about Grayson McCall. Looking forward to seeing him in that game for the first time this season. I'll actually see him in person later this year, so that'll be awesome as well.
Kansas is going to lose pretty bad. There's no way that they come close to Coastal Carolina, but I'm happy. I'm happy they won a game and stormed the field, beating an FCS team. Like it's wild, but like I accept it. Kansas deserved it. They hadn't won how many games? 60 something. They hadn't won a game.
It was but 2 years they hadn't won a game.
Oh my god.
8:30 p.m. FS1. You've got UTEP at Boise State. I saw Boise last week blow a game against UCF. You get them against UTEP this week, who I did watch against New Mexico State from week 0. I cut that game up. I didn't write it up, but I did watch it. Who are you looking forward to in that one?
I'm excited for the receivers. Khalil Shakir for Boise is a draftable player, has that speed, and I actually really like junior UTEP receiver Jacob Cowing. Probably won't declare, obviously, from UTEP, but I think a player in the 2023 class who is going to have production, going to be one of those kind of analytics darlings for them. So I'm excited for maybe not super excited for that game, but I'll like the receivers at the very least.
We talked about Oregon, Ohio State. That one's mine. 11 a.m. on Fox, big noon kickoff. 11 a.m. on ESPN, Pitt and Tennessee. First time either one of them has appeared on our watch list this year.
Some good prospects from both. I'm here in Pittsburgh, and I think Lucas Krull, the tight end, very athletic tight end for them that had a touchdown last week. He's very good. And then Kenny Pickett, the quarterback, I think has a shot to get drafted. I think Tennessee has a couple good players. Cade Mays, the offensive tackle, was a 5-star recruit. Which I haven't gotten. He hasn't really played too much. So I'm excited to see him. And Alontae Taylor, their corner, I think has a shot to be, probably early day 3 guy. And my top long snapper is in this game. Caladomidas. I don't know if that'll stick. We'll see who the Senior Bowl brings in, but he's I like him. So I get to watch some long snapping in this game for sure.
I'm anxious to see at 11 o'clock on ESPN2 South Carolina's secondary, which I think is their weak link on their defense. If they get tested by East Carolina quarterback Holton Allers and their receiver C.J. Johnson, those are Johnson's big guy, 6'2", 236. Is that right? 236-pound receiver. That's a tight end. And so I'm anxious to see Allers is Ehlers, whatever. Also a big guy, 6'3", 230 at quarterback. So anxious to see how South Carolina's pass rush, does against an East Carolina offensive line. I'm going to assume is not going to be SEC caliber up front. So anxious to see Jordan Strawn, Kinsley Enigbare, Jordan Burch, who's not a draftable prospect, but I bet you saw that interception return he had last week, didn't you, Shane?
I did.
And Zach Pickens. So anxious to see how those guys tee off in that one. And as always, I will watch South Carolina every week. I might not write South Carolina up every week, but like Ohio State with you'll be watching the Oregon game. You might not be writing it up, but you'll be watching every week. So if you don't like hearing us talk about South Carolina and Ohio State, I don't know what to tell you guys. You're just going to get that every week for at least a little bit. 2:30 on ESPNU, Cal and TCU. I watched Cal this past week. Their quarterback Chase Garbers was a bit up and down, to be putting it nicely.
Yeah.
I do like their linebacker Keone Ding, though. I think he's a projectable athlete at the next level.
Yeah, like I think he's good. Cameron Good, their other linebacker, I think is solid. Not a ton to write home about. TCU has a nice pass rusher, O'Shawn Mathis, a junior that I think is pretty good for them. Decent offensive line. I don't know. It's not the most exciting game in the world, but a couple guys that'll get drafted or get on teams at the very least.
Right. I'm a game that's being played in Denver, Colorado, Texas A&M. That's 2:30 on Fox. Colorado doesn't have. I'm not sure Colorado has what I call a draftable player right now on their team. They've got some probably guys that'll be undrafted guys coming up. I think their best player probably is linebacker Nate Landman.
Yeah, I think he can get drafted.
Yeah, maybe Jarek Broussard. He's a solid running back, but they're going to have – that's a tough out for them this week. Texas A&M is freaking loaded with NFL talent. Jimbo Fisher has loaded that team up, and they're going to tee off on Colorado this week, I believe. I don't think that game's going to be particularly close when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I don't know what the line is, but it's probably not high enough. So
that line is A&M is a 18-point favorite.
Yep, that's not going to be my lock, but I'm close. I'm close to changing.
Take Texas A&M is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
We almost went with this game as your long-form discussion game because there's a lot of talent in this one. Iowa and Iowa State, 3:30 p.m. on ABC.
The two teams with very different week ones. Iowa pulling the upset and dominating Indiana, and Iowa State barely squeaking it out. I'm excited. I mean, we have Iowa as my top center in Tyler Linderbaum, who's really, really talented, really good athletic pulling center guard, whatever you want to say. Tyler Goodson, the running backs, definitely draftable. He had a big game against Indiana. Sam Laporta, their tight end, kind of broke out in that first week. And Iowa tight ends, always, I'm going to take notice. So that's exciting. And then Iowa State's a good team, right? It's supposed to be a good team this year. Breece Hall, one of the top running backs in this class. Some people on this top running back. He struggled a little bit in that first week. I like Xavier Hutchinson, their receiver, Charlie Kohler and Chase Allen, two tight ends. Kohler could be a top 100 pick. Mike Rose, the linebacker. So there's a lot of prospects in this game that I'll be tracking for sure.
Brock Purdy, does he do it for you?
Nope.
Moving on.
Might go like 6th, 7th round, but absolutely not.
Texas and Arkansas I've got this one this week, 6 p.m. on ESPN. Texas, they really outplayed Louisiana last week, so this will be another test for them on the road at Arkansas, a team I think is going to be improved this year. And I know we both are really high on Arkansas wide receiver Traylon Burks, so anxious to definitely see him go against Texas and see how he does. And see how their quarterback that you are higher on than I am, because I haven't really officially watched him yet, but KJ Jefferson, their redshirt sophomore quarterback, big guy, 6'3", 240. Jalen Catalon's another guy I'm hearing a lot of good things about that I haven't watched yet. So I'm anxious to see all those guys from Arkansas. I'm anxious to see more Arkansas guys in this game than I am Texas.
Texas doesn't have a ton of guys. This year they're a young team, but yeah, definitely watch DeMarvion Overshawn, their linebacker. Though he jumped off the page to me against Louisiana.
On our watch list here, tight end for Arkansas, redshirt sophomore, 6'5", 255, Hudson Henry, related to Hunter Henry. Is that his brother?
Yeah,
is he an Arkansas legacy?
I believe it is his brother. Yes.
Well, all right.
I'll check, but I think that's
you can't go wrong with that.
Yep.
We talked about Washington, Michigan earlier. Final two games because I decided I wanted to stay up late on Saturday night.
It's all you.
Utah, BYU, 9:15 at ESPN, and Utah quarterback Charlie Brewer, transfer from Baylor. I thought he was solid at times at Baylor, so I'm anxious to see how he looks in the new digs there in Utah. BYU, I'm absolutely in love with their two-headed monster at running back, Lupini Katoa and Tyler Algier. I think they're two completely different running backs and what they bring. Katoa, I think, is more of probably a third down back at the NFL level, but he can run in between the tackles. And Allgaier's got that breakaway gear. I know he's your guy.
Yeah.
Got that breakaway speed, and he can run, north and south. So I like those. Definitely like those two guys, and for BYU. So anxious to see that. And the other late game, I'll be watching Stanford at Southern Cal on Saturday. Stanford looked bad in that opener against Kansas State. I watched a little bit of that. Had it on while I was writing up one of the games this week. I had that on in the background. It was like a replay on FS2 or something, and Stanford did not look good. Their quarterback play is atrocious. One of their quarterback, the kid they started at quarterback, is a local kid here from Mobile. He played at Saraland High School. He's bad. I mean, he's like awful.
Ouch.
I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I hate it for the kid because he's local, but he's not going to be an NFL quarterback. I was talking to somebody about it earlier this week. He's like, well, maybe he'll transfer. No, dude just needs to get his degree from Stanford, like it, and just move on to the next portion of his life, whatever that may be. But Stanford's got a couple of defensive guys that I liked from a year ago. Thomas Booker, their interior defensive lineman, and their linebacker Jordan Fox. Southern Cal, we talked about Drake Jackson earlier. Want to get a good look at him. I was really intrigued by their offensive tackle Jalen McKenzie last year, just based off a Twitter clip. Saw a Twitter clip of him, like writing his name down, where he literally just took one arm and threw a guy 5 yards down the field. That was enough for me to see to like him. And Keaton Slovis is a quarterback, one of the top quarterback prospects in this class. So, and they've got a couple receivers, especially Drake London. I think is a great prospect. So,
oh man, yeah, he moved up into my my top 5 after last week. So,
well, that's our games we're watching this week. 12 games, 7 from me, 5 from you. Like I said, I think I'm gonna pare that down next week. I think I got a bit ambitious. I saw those 2 late night games. I'm like, I got to get on that. And then I'm like, after I was writing all those games up this week from this past week, man.
I was like, I'll watch them, but I'm writing them up. That
so I think I've bit off more than I could chew this week. We'll see. Maybe I'll get everything up before this podcast next week. We started our gambling segment last week for those gambling aficionados out there that like to win money, and who doesn't? I mean, if we're going to be honest. So lock of the week last week, I had Auburn minus 37 against Akron. That hit going away. Your lock of the week was Louisiana getting 8 points from Texas. That didn't really work out, Shane. So where are you going this week? Who's that upset you were talking about earlier?
Oh, look, I'm not saying it's going to be an upset here, but in terms of covering the spread, yeah, I'm probably making the dumb mistake to once again take a smaller school team going up against a bigger team. But I'm taking Ball State plus 22.5 against Penn State. Penn State won last week. I'm definitely a Big Ten guy. I like Penn State, but I think Sean Clifford can have his struggles, and I really like Drew Plitt, the quarterback for Ball State. They have a pretty good explosive offense. I think they could put up some points. So, I think they can keep within 3 touchdowns, even if it's some pure garbage time cover. I'm going Ball State this week.
Ball State, you heard it right here. He was not enamored with that Penn State offense that he watched last week.
I love the receivers, but they don't have anyone getting the ball, so it's a problem.
We had one question last week, and the guy asked about Sean Clifford, and man.
Look, he asked how he could be a first-round pick, and I said it would take an act of God.
Actually, he just said that. What does he have to do to be? Did he say first-round pick or even be? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Sean Clifford probably not getting drafted. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Didn't have it.
So my lock of the week this week, I'm going to go Service Academy Commander-in-Chief trophy game this week. I'm going to take Air Force on the road at Navy, laying the 6.5. I don't think Navy's very good this year. I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. They got just boat raced by Marshall last week, and I'm not sure Marshall's that great of a football team, but they got beat like 42-6 by Marshall. Air Force beat an FCS Lafayette team pretty handily, but I think Air Force minus 6.5 here is the play I'm going to make.
I like it.
Well, we asked for questions. We got no questions.
That's right.
I'll go with my final thought this week first. I was credentialed to cover the Southern Miss South Alabama game here in Mobile last week. Want to thank all the people in the public relations department, the SID at South Alabama. They do a great job. That brand new stadium over there. I did the radio broadcast for the Senior Bowl last year, but I didn't get to sit in the actual press box section for the game for the Senior Bowl. Was in the radio booth, but so it's my first time sitting in the press box there. It's immaculate. It's great. It's everything you would think a brand new stadium would look like. It puts them head and shoulders, I think, above everyone else in the Sun Belt right now from a facility point of view. I mean, they've got their own indoor facility there. I've been there a couple of times for Senior Bowl practices when they got rained out. So I think South Alabama is a program on the rise, and this hurts. I'm hurting a little bit inside with what I'm about to say here, Shane, because I am very easily the first person to make Jake Bentley jokes and talk bad about Jake Bentley. That was the best game I've seen Jake Bentley play since the 2016 Birmingham Bowl that I also saw in person. Jake Bentley had a great game the other night. So I think he's a perfect Sun Belt level quarterback. I mean, he's not a Power 5 quarterback. That showed, at South Carolina and last year at Utah. I don't think Jake Bentley's going to be drafted, nor should he. I think he's going to be a damn fine coach somewhere, be it high school or college assistant somewhere down the line. But Jake Bentley had a great game the other night. Jalen Tolbert, that man is awesome. Had 5 catches for 168 the other night. Top 100, yeah.
Top 100, yeah.
I think we can lock that in. And that's a guy I think we will see at the Senior Bowl. Definitely. I think he'll be there.
No, Jake Bentley, you don't think he can sneak in there as the last quarterback at the Senior Bowl?
I don't know.
Look, they like
all things. I guess we're really dependent on how things shake out in the All-Star game pecking order here.
True.
Oh, what you got for us to go out on there, Jay?
Well, I just want to promote my other podcast if people are interested. We mentioned it, I think, last week once or twice, but the Debbie Marketplace, you can look it up wherever you get your podcasts. Me and Kane Fussell host that. It's fantasy focused, Debbie fantasy football. So we talk not just 2022 draft, but 2023, 2024, skill position guys and that kind of thing. So, that's what we've been ramping that up and having a good time. And, we do some nonsense on there. So if you're enjoying this, you'll probably enjoy that. Even if you don't play Debbie fantasy football, we have fun. But I'm excited to keep watching college football. I'm here in Pittsburgh, so I'm excited for the NFL season 2 and to get all that kicked off for sure.
Yeah, I enjoy it. A couple of times I've been on the Debbie Marketplace podcast with you and Kane. Yeah, he's a fun guy to deal with, and he's easy to poke fun at, and he takes it all in stride. So that's always fun when you can laugh at yourself. I always enjoy that about anybody. Kane's definitely a good guy there. So everybody after you listen to this, go look up the Debbie Marketplace podcast and give that one a follow. That's going to do it for tonight. We've gone on here for about an hour now, so we're going to wrap it up. Get ready for week 2 of college football. Check out draftcountdown.com. Follow Shane on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. Follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft, and follow Draft Countdown on Twitter at Draft Countdown. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think we haven't really done anything on there yet, but it's there.
We have one. I posted one.
Oh, hey, we have one TikTok. Shane's dancing over there. Go download the TikTok, and we'll. But anyway, everybody, have a good evening, and we'll see you this time next week.